Hello, good evening and welcome to the Midweek Fix by the LFC Daytrippers after Liverpool's unconvincing 2-0 defeat at home to Atalanta in the Champions League. The Midweek Fix is brought to you by Football Prizes. Find them on Twitter and Instagram by searching Football Prizes or at footballprizes.co.uk. This week's LFC prize is a signed and framed Virgil van Dijk shirt. So tickets are £4.95 and a max of 99 tickets available, and I'm told there's around 20 of them left. So if you can get on, you'll find all the details in the show description below, and you know, every little bit that helps them is going away to help us as well. So lads, Scaldy match tonight. We'll talk about it. We'll go through the pros and the cons. Spoiler alert, there's no pros. And we'll see how we all feel after that game. Andy, I'll come to you first. You're a positive Liverpool fan. What did you make of that?
The positives, I suppose. Players that don't normally get minutes got minutes, and there's no injury so far. Let's just wait till all the players are home safe and sound in bed, and there's no surprises. Now, look. It's there's no positives. Let's be realistic. They were very poor. They never got going. They were flat. They were all those bad things that happen when Liverpool make a lot of changes and things just go wrong. It tends to happen when they make 5 or 6 changes that it can just swing either way. You can get a brilliant performance, or it goes like that. So it should be no surprise that these are the risks you take. Klopp took a measured risk tonight. He thought, how much can I weaken this team and try and get a result and put us through. That risk didn't pay off tonight, unfortunately, but most of his risks do pay off. But we'll carry on. We never make these things easy. I'm sure we'll get through in the next game.
That's very true, very true. Grizz, what did you make of the evening's work, the events?
Well, this program is called the Midweek Fix, so I don't know how we're going to fix the mood of the LFC fan base. There is nothing to be positive about today, apart from fingers crossed. Well, as Andy says, let them reach home. Hope Matip reaches his bed in peace. No injuries. That's the only good thing. I didn't want any injuries above anything else, and I said that last night on the preview show. As hard as it is to take that performance, I'm sticking by that opinion. Listen, lads, we've got 6 players missing from our original squad, and then on top of that, we've made another 5 further changes. That's 11 players we've changed. Near enough, if you know what I mean. From what would be our first 11, yeah. It's not conceivable to accept that we're going to have an off night. And let's not forget, I know we thrashed the shit out of them in the first game, but they were never going to be that naive in the second game. They were never going to be that crappy in the second game. They're actually a very good team. Yeah. Me and you, Gav said me and you bigged them up too much in the first game. Well, today he got a dose of a little bit of reality, and that's why he's run off the pod. So I'm going to put that out. But look, we're allowed an off night, and I love having an off night when it's not doom and gloom in terms of terminal. It's out of our hands and it's still in our hands. I love having an off night when it's not affecting us that deep. We need a win in our last 2 games, and I'm still absolutely fine with that. Home game against Ajax. Away to Midgetland, we need 1 win. We're okay. No injuries. On we go to Brighton, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come around to that sort of stuff. Chris, what about yourself? Could you see any bright sparks tonight? We're going to come on to the sort of team selection now in a minute, but was there anything that you could look at and take away from tonight positively?
Not from the performance tonight. It was bang average, and that's probably being polite. The only thing long term that could be a benefit is you do tend to find up with young players, the likes of the 2 Williams lads and Jones. You tend to learn a lot more from a defeat or a difficult performance.
Yeah.
So while short term it's crap for them, long term it could do them good. We'll come to the goals, but they are quite naive mistakes by young players, which young players will always make mistakes. So that's the only potential positive is, for their development, hopefully as long-term Liverpool players, is they're going to learn from this and hopefully not make the same mistake twice. And that's probably clutching at straws, because that's probably the only slight benefit I can find, because I thought, performance-wise, it was pretty bang average, and I thought a lot of the senior players were appalling and didn't really help the kids out at all. I think that's unusual for a Liverpool side, I would say.
It's very true. It's very true. So, lads, we'll talk about the team selection. Andy, I'll come back to you. What did you think when you saw the lineup? Were you surprised? Did you think there wasn't many options, or were you thinking we still have enough to do it? How did you feel when you saw the team?
No, I wasn't surprised, but when I saw the team, I knew we were going to be vulnerable at the back with the two Williams. Reece Williams has impressed me in the games he's played so far, but he's very inexperienced. As you know, Nico Williams hasn't had the best start to his Liverpool career. Playing beside Matip, who I feel is trying to mind himself and make sure he doesn't get an injury. And Tsimikas, of course, one of his 4 starts there. So, no, I knew there was going to be problems. Milner's legs aren't great for midfield anymore. I had all the hallmarks of problems being caused for us defensively. But I did think Mane and Salah being in the team might be enough to kind of get the first goal. And I did think the team that was put out was probably going to be enough to win. I noticed Origi's getting an awful lot of stick. I think it's a little bit unfair, and I'll tell you why. He's been a good servant to Liverpool. He's got some extremely important goals. There was a time when Origi used to play a lot more football for Liverpool, and that's when those goals used to come. Coming in off the bench and getting big goals, and some of the games he started against Everton and got important goals there too. But to be having a go on him now, for a fella who plays very, very few minutes, it's been a bit of a longer boy now for Origi. He's on the way out for quite some time. Doesn't play an awful lot of minutes. He comes in, don't expect him to be pulling up any trees.
Now, before you go on, Andy, and I'll stay with you for this, fair play for defending Origi. He is taking a lot of stick, whether it's right or wrong in some people's minds. But I understand he hasn't been playing regularly. He doesn't get the minutes. But do you not think, this is my criticism of Origi? I'm not trying to lead you or steer you into anything or anyone else, speak for anyone else. It's the lack of trying that annoys me and annoyed me tonight with Origi. So he hasn't been getting games, and he knows now there's a lot of competition. But and maybe it's just Divok's sort of nature and the way he sort of carries himself. But he didn't look to be trying. He didn't look to be busting a gut to do it. And he doesn't really now. Is that maybe an unfair criticism that we're all, he's always been like this? Do you know what I mean? But when he was scoring goals, nobody really minded. When he's not scoring and we're having a stinker, it's like, why is he not trying?
Yeah, you've said it for me. I was just going to say that's the way he's always been. Yeah, you've said it for me. He scored that goal against Barca. Didn't really crack a smile. Just kind of trotted off towards the crowd. He's a very emotionless type of player. The games he scored against, the goals he scored late against Everton, and same story. He's just not that type. He's just not. He never looks like he's breaking a sweat. Looking at him tonight, he's a shade of. He was never a great player. Anyway, we know that he was always being a fringe player. Yeah. But looking at him tonight, he lost what he has there. His movement is terrible. Like, even as an amateur fan, just watching, just the way he was making his runs, just wasn't what you expect from a striker. He wasn't putting himself about enough. But that's it. That's the way he's always been. There's no point in micro-analysing it. That's been Origi since he's been at Liverpool. But now, add on the fact that he doesn't play much football, you're not going to get. He certainly shouldn't be taking the stick tonight. There was regular players that played tonight, more regular players that played tonight, quality players that played tonight that weren't at the races. Give Divock a break. That's all I'm saying. He's going to be gone in a while. Load of bollocks,
Yeah. Grizz, I'm going to come to you. Andy touched on something there that there was other senior players. And let's talk about the other two that were playing either side of him. How do you think they played tonight, Mane and Salah?
Yeah, when Andy was mentioning senior players, my mind was diverting towards them too, especially. Look, with regards to Mane and Salah, Salah's not been sort of training as such for the last 2.5 weeks. So you can expect a bit of rustiness, you know. He didn't look himself.
He didn't look rusty when he was doing rock the boat at his brother's wedding, did he?
No, he was quite informed then, but I think, you know, I think he ran out of energy doing all that stuff at that wedding. Fair play to him. Mane was due a rest, in my opinion. If I was a Premier League manager, what's going on now? Why are you laughing? Keith and Grizz must be
I'm just reading the comments. That's all.
Well, let's read it all together today. Keith and Grizz must be crapping themselves with Andy sitting below them. You know what he wants to do with Martin Tyler from the gantry. But look, Mane had a stinker. There's no getting away from it. I know he gives the impression he's superhuman sometimes. The way he just plays every single game and the way he just lifts us out of any adversity or any trouble we ever seem to be in, is super Mane comes to the rescue. But the lad needs a rest and needs a break. And unfortunately, we just haven't got the personnel. Look, if you want to have a go at, not even a go, but, you know, if you want to have a moan or frustrate, be frustrated and moan at Naby Keita, Ox, Shaqiri, these fellas that are supposed to be stepping in and giving these guys a break. You know, the guy's run himself into the ground for us.
Why would you have a go at Ox?
Just not being available, Andy. He's got to be available.
It's hardly his fault.
Well, whatever the fault is, whatever the reason is, what I'm saying is, don't have a go at him. Be frustrated with him. Take your frustrations out of the non-available players, because that's what they were here for. They were here to sort of help us out in situations like this, where we're literally, it's a second string.
I know, Chris, but look, Keita and Wijnaldum Ox. They're not feigning injuries. They're injured. You know what?
No.
That's up to Klopp to sort out. Move them on. Bring in someone who's not injured. Don't take your frustrations out with injured players. If you're going to take your frustrations out with players that can't stay fit, then you're gonna have to go with the manager, isn't it?
Well, then they're gonna have to take the frustrations out on Origi, and you don't want that either. So who do you want them to take the frustrations out?
The senior players tonight. They're supposed to be the ones to show leadership.
Mane is an absolute champion. You can't be just because he's had an off night.
You could
Well, then don't take your first. You don't have to be. You don't have to be frustrated. You can just accept that this is football and these things happen sometimes.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
We could do that, but we're not going to.
You could take your frustrations out.
Chris.
You could potentially take your frustrations. You could take your frustrations out on the manager, because Mane looked tired in the Leicester game. He looked tired today. So there is an argument to say, did you rest the wrong player? You know, no, it's easy.
That's
to say,
fair enough. I think that's the fairest.
Because maybe Jota and Firmino need it.
Yeah, no, I think that's the fairest.
We don't know.
Sorry,
that is something that I wanted to come on to. We'll talk about it now, and Grizz will come back to you because you're going to jump in. And anyway, is there a question about Klopp's selection? Not in the sense, you know, he played 3 19-year-olds, and that's, you know, we didn't have much of a choice really with those lads' selections. But the front three, do you feel that Mane played the whole game, didn't he? Like, out of all of them, was probably the one that could have been the one to sit out. I know Salah coming back, they probably wanted to give him minutes, but do you think there might be a case for even playing Firmino tonight? Because I know on the show last night, I think Phil said that Firmino is a streaky striker in the sense that he gets off the mark the other day, and it might have been an option to go with him tonight maybe and try and get a roll out with him and give Mane a rest. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, I know that, but do you think Klopp maybe 1 or 2 decisions were maybe wrong? Or
I think
feel his role was?
I think Chris came in between me and Andy's little sort of disagreement and made more sense than both of us. I think the frustration probably for tonight lies with Klopp going towards Klopp because you're right.
I did say that myself.
So did I. But we both
were saying the same thing. But
we both said the same thing. You know what you said about me in the WhatsApp group? I say a lot of things, but
yeah.
I said to you, I said you should be a politician.
But look, but I think it's fair to say Klopp had an off night. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Although it's not an off night. I'm going to cover myself again. It's not an off night per se because it's limited. He's got a limited selection group of players. He has to make decisions that he thinks will make sure we're in the Champions League of the next qualifying round of the Champions League and still at the top of the table. So the team and squad he selected today is to make in his opinion, and the medical squad team and everything, is to make sure we got a team that's good enough to win today and make sure we get through to this next round and also be ready for Brighton on Saturday. Now, nobody can tell me that he's picked this squad thinking, who cares, like I did. But, I didn't care about today. But Klopp did, and his team did. He picked that team thinking it's going to be good enough. The players didn't perform. There was 5-6 stinkers out there and 3-4 players that just done their part and were neat and tidy, like young Reece Williams. But, 5-6 of them had stinkers. And you can maybe add Klopp to that. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Klopp said before the game he likes to take each game as it comes, and so treat each game with the respect it deserves. And he says, unfortunately, he couldn't do that tonight. So he wasn't able to play. Did he say that? Yeah, because he has to have an eye on the next game.
Yeah,
and it's not something he likes to do. I know Bobby missed the training session, so that might be something to do with the reason why he didn't.
Fair enough.
Very true.
And the one that shocked me was I thought Minamino might have started, but look.
Yeah,
he talked him up in the press conference. Maybe Minamino starts at the weekend. I don't know, but he talked him up that he's been training well. Normally, he rewards that with a game. I thought he might have been a better fit tonight. Yeah. Look,
is he becoming a concern? Is he becoming a concern yet, Minamino?
Yeah, I mean, he might have just said he's been training well and fighting hard training just to encourage him, just to motivate him. He knows he's probably going to need him over the next few weeks anyway, like with such amount of games.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's just more he keeps picking Origi over him. That's why I'm surprised. He keeps picking Origi over him. Look, we all know Origi should be 7th choice, but Minamino, in my head, he can't be doing brilliant in training because why would you pick Divock over him? I know they're different players, but if you know what I mean, if you're going to do give a player an opportunity, you think it would be Minamino and not Origi.
The only thing, do you know what I'd say about that? What I'd counter with that is with the squad tonight, we didn't have any other options in midfield on the bench. The young lads were there.
That was the main.
Kane and Jordan Clarkson. Was it Jordan Clarkson?
Leighton Clarkson.
Both on Leighton Clarkson. Yeah, we're both on the bench, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not trying to, give him a pass or not. I think Minamino has looked good in flashes and has had some stinkers. I think he's probably finding it a bit tough, but Europe he should be okay. I can understand the rough and tumble in the Premier League, but my thinking behind that was, and look, I'm not Klopp and I'm not on the managerial team, is Minamino was kept behind as a midfield option just in case. When he did come on, it's Matip that comes off, isn't it? And Fabinho goes into the defence. So maybe it was I know he did play before the up, but maybe it was along them lines. I don't know.
You got to remember. Maybe. You got to remember we're going in this. We're playing the same 3 midfielders. Well, I know Milner played at right back for some of the game, and then some in midfield. But basically, the midfield that ended the game against Leicester, we played the same midfield. Now that wasn't out of choice; it was out of necessity.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't have any other options to go with, and I think Andy said Milner, bless him, and we love him to bits, but he shouldn't be playing central midfield for a Jurgen Klopp team against a high-energy pressing Atalanta team. But we had to. We had no choice. And we had a 19-year-old who played... correct me if I'm wrong, lads. Did Curtis Jones play the full 90 minutes against Leicester?
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Or
he
if he
did.
didn't, he played most.
No, he
of
did,
them,
didn't he?
He did, he
Yeah,
was
and so
there.
there you go. And then you've got the
Yeah,
same,
yeah.
and then you've got the same 19-year-old going into same scenario. And Gini, what we discussed, I know he came off, not just after halftime, but he's played billions of minutes
of
already
minutes.
this season. So we had no choice. He was brave enough, he was forced to rest Robbo because Robbo's been carrying a slight knock, but just the soldier is playing through. The only, and I think we all have agreed, the only sort of main error we could say Klopp made hindsight is the Minamino and Divock. I think that's the only contentious decision we can say. We'd all agree on. The rest, he was kind of forced into playing, lads. There's only so much you can do. You've got to sometimes do what you've got to do, and then hopefully the players, carry your actions. And his actions on the sidelines was going mental. He was absolutely going mental. So they weren't doing what he was saying.
They weren't doing what he was told. He was given Tsimikas a bollocking at one stage, and he was given Origi a bollocking at one stage. He was very animated on the sideline, as a lot more than he normally is in terms of how angry he looked. So you could see for the first 20 minutes, Liverpool were being dominated. And look, I hate using this term at home because they're not really at home with these no crowds. But there was nothing there to G them on. I think that doesn't happen if that stadium's full tonight.
Yeah, it was so flat. It was so flat. The performance was flat. There was nothing really to G the lads up. And look, our podcast is flat. Nobody likes a defeat.
Yeah, 20 minutes. The first 20 minutes set the style for the whole game.
Yeah.
It's sometimes something happens, you get a chance or you get a bit of possession, and all of a sudden that's put behind you. But the rot just set in there. And they couldn't get their foot on the game at all. Every time it got up to the front man, a leg was in. Actually, I thought I'm a bit split on the refereeing. It was either a great.
I want to bring that up, Andy. That's a nice segue. Go ahead, Andy. Continue what you were saying there. I want to hear how you're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, I was giving out saying this ref is fucking shit, right? But then I do like a ref who lets the game play. Yep. But I just felt that he was letting the game play when he shouldn't have been. When those really obvious fouls, those ones that just it's an easy whistle for the ref. It's just he's gone over. There's no advantage being played here, but I think he was just making little bad decisions throughout the game in terms of letting the flow. So there was just letting clear fouls going, and then the other team, the opposition, and even with Liverpool when they were fouling, it was the same for both teams. It looked like a really inexperienced ref.
Yeah. Now, Chris, I'll let you come in there because I know you are.
It felt like John used to play somewhere like a Stoke away or a Burnley away, and you'd know in the first 10 minutes that the referee was going to let stuff go. And it felt like one of those games where you thought he's going to let a lot go. And I think that's where the naivety of probably the youngsters in the side was shown, because they're probably used to probably getting more free kicks than they should have done. And I thought Atalanta adapted to that better than we did. I mean, ironically, I laughed in the first half that the one free kick we got where we had our best chance was one of the cleanest tackles the Atalanta players did, which is ironic. Yeah. I didn't think he was great, but that's not the reason we lost. We didn't adapt to... Again, this is where I think it could be a benefit for the young players is this is where you've got to adapt where things you would expect to be called aren't called, so you've got to adapt to the environment you're in. And I just felt Atalanta adapted better than we did. I mean, it probably suited their game better. So, look, I didn't think he was great, but that's not the reason. Just to make it clear, that's not the reason we lost. The reason we lost was it was so slow. The tempo was so slow. It was just a dead game. Yeah. But the way to look at it is, with the amount of injuries we've had and the amount of limited rotation, at some point, we always thought, at some point, they're going to catch up with us. And maybe this is the game that's caught up with us, and this is where we get a bit of a reset. Because in fairness to Klopp and his teams, after a bad result, they normally reset and normally do something. So this could be the next jolt for us, and hopefully we get someone like a Henderson back at the weekend.
Well, with just on the referee, sorry, Keith, with just on the referee, I think what happened was very early they got a sense of he's allowing us to be very physical and very on top of the forwards. Like literally, it was Klopp talked about beforehand how difficult it is to play teams like Leeds and Atalanta that play a man marking system everywhere on the pitch. And I think that's what we found. Because of the lack of movement, they found it very easy to step on our attackers. And when I mean step, literally in some cases on the back of. And they found that the referee was very lenient. He wasn't very lenient only towards us, but them as well. Just generally, he thought, fuck it. Who gives a shit about fouls? You know, just carry on unless you really hurt someone. So unless someone was like nearly concussed on the floor, he would carry on. So fair play to him. He didn't give anything to anyone. But I think Atlanta really grasped that really early and just man-marked each one of our forwards. And that's what Klopp had a fit about with Origi, about his movement. You know, it was just awful, really, to be honest with you. And it may give them a good, strong foothold in the game, and we just couldn't shake it off.
Yeah, there's a comment I'm going to prepare, and it's going away from the game, and I want to just talk about it and get your opinions. Right, John O saying, is THIAGO alive? Seriously, are the club hiding something about this injury? Do you feel the club should do a statement to say about a player's injury?
Go on, Chris, you was going to say something. Go on.
No, why do the club need to tell us anything? And I know it's for our own benefit of, I'd like to know when he's back. But if I know when he's back, Brighton know when he's back, Spurs know when he's back, and they can plan for him. So, what I don't get is it's not a new thing. If it's someone like an injury like Van Dijk or Gomez has gone, you don't need the club to tell you that, because you know it's a 6-month injury. If it's a Trent, like a hamstring pull, you know it's about 4 weeks.
You know,
the in-between ones, you're like, don't tell anyone. The club know. I guarantee the club know when he's back. The club know when he's going to play. But we don't have to tell you. Why do we have to why give everybody else the advantage? You know,
and that's not a dig at
Jono.
Before you go on. Sorry, Chris. Just so Jono knows, I'm not having a dig at him. It's a lot of people are saying the same thing. What's happening? But it just seems mad.
There's a lot of entitlement amongst the fans that think they deserve this and they deserve that. The club have to work in the best interests of the club, the team, and what's happening in what next game. You can't give away what you know. You can't just to keep a few bedwetters happy on Twitter. No way. THIAGO, I don't think the THIAGO thing has anything to do with that challenge. He played on in that game, but I think he's the type of player who picks up little knocks, little strains. He did throughout his boring career. Never really put a huge string of games together with them either. It's one of the reasons why I was wondering would they go from it all. And that's what we're going to be dealing with for as long as THIAGO plays for Liverpool. He's not going to play 30, 40 games a season. Not going to happen.
Interesting.
See, I think because he played on, that's made it worse.
Possibly.
Yeah, I think, so one of the things being suggested that there was actually the knee injury was worse. Well, that's not true, because he was straight back into training. He was straight back into light training. You can tell straight away if there's a serious knee injury by the assessment they can do on the pitch. I think he's just got a knock. He's just got an impact injury, but it's probably caused something else somewhere else, because that's the type of player he is.
Even that,
he picks up small injuries.
Or is the club using opportunities to go, let's do a pre-season for him?
Yeah.
I think Andy, when Andy said sense of entitlement, I was like clapping my hands under the table. He couldn't see. I just wanted to carry on saying.
I seen the way your head was moving. I knew you were doing something. I'm glad you were clapping.
I cleared that up. So look, the sense of entitlement from, and it seems the Twitter fan base, the LFC fan base, is fucking ridiculous. It's embarrassing. And it's toxic, it's needy, all of them. It's ridiculous. Why should the club tell you what the fucking status is of their players? Jurgen Klopp said it in the last press conference. He lost it, actually. Not quite like how much I'm losing it, but he lost it Klopp levels. Right? He said, like, why should I tell you, or why should I let Atalanta know what the injury situation is and let them be prepared? I know where we're at. Internally, we know where we're at, each player where he's at, and we'll take it from there. Look, without getting into conspiracy theories, there is no fucking conspiracy theory. He took a fucking serious knock to his knee. They thought it would clear up. He came out on pitch. Do you remember there was about 3 weeks ago, he came out with pictures of him training on his own at Bayern. Keith, you'll know this. At Bayern, he had an individual training program throughout the season. He had a personal trainer that he paid, I can't remember the X amount of money for, that made sure he's as fit as possible. As Andy says, he does pick up knocks and strains easy. He is one of those players. They thought he'll be back quicker than than he actually is, and that's all it is. He'll be back on the weekend. Relax, you fucking idiots.
And that's not, again, signal out Jono for asking the question. And Jono, loads of people are saying it, and it's just something that, it was in my head, why would the clubs say it? As Chris touched on, if you get a hamstring, you can sort of guess how long they'll be out with thigh strain, calf, you name it, you can sort of put a guess on it. This is just, he'll be ready when he's ready, and that's the end. I mean, I remember Fabinho couldn't get in the team and people thought we were selling them to PSG before he broke in. Sometimes it can take a while just to get into the team and get up used to the way Klopp wants to play. Could be anything. But
well, Jono says he asked the question because Klopp gets more agitated when asked about THIAGO than he'd asked when he asked about Oxen. Because that's frustrated, Jono. Yeah. He's frustrated that he's got this wonderful player that can't get fit for him, and that's frustration. It's not because he's trying to cover up anything. It's just one of those things. It's frustrated. Like if you've got something, if you've got a tool in your box that you think it's the best tool, but you don't know how to use it or you can't use it. No, it's a shit analogy, but you know what I mean. He's he's frustrated that he can't get his best player on the pitch, and that's all it is. That's just frustration.
Yeah, true. It is what it is.
But it's broken.
Yeah, there you go. It is what it is. It's just one of them things. I think people are just, as I said, they want to see the shiny THIAGO playing. When he's ready, he'll be playing. I wouldn't be losing too much sleep. I wouldn't be crying conspiracy theories and what have you about that. If you want to talk about frustrations, let's go back to the match. So the first half plays out. It's a bit of a stinker. We touched on the ref, right? And one thing, Andy said he was giving it for both teams. It wasn't like he was just treating us a bit greasy and giving the Atalanta lads everything. It was mad for a Spanish ref. You don't expect them to be as free flowing, and certainly in the Champions League. There was the Ilicic's theatrics for when he got pulled back. Now we argue when someone, contact is contact, and if they have to exaggerate a fall, they should still get a penalty. Do you feel Ilicic should have got a penalty in that first half, Andy?
I didn't look at the replay loads of times. To be honest, it looked like a penalty at first glance to me. It looks the way he looked like he went down, the way he looked like he was held. But no, I didn't look at loads of replays of it. I made the fatal error of interacting with WhatsApp groups tonight while I was watching that game.
Unlucky.
It doesn't work for me, and I don't know how. I'd love to see the comments actually about this. Can you watch a game and interact with WhatsApp? Can you watch a game and interact with Twitter or whatever your choice of social media is throughout a game? I think it takes
like watching two different games.
Yeah, it kind of takes a couple of seconds to send a message, but by the time you're down on your phone reading, you look up again, you know what I mean, you're thinking about what to write. You've missed chunks of games, you know what I mean. I find it very difficult, and that's why that fucking WhatsApp thing, it just caused me to miss the replays of that penalty shout. Yeah. So it's impossible. I find it very difficult. I rarely do it, and I made the fatal error there tonight. I thought one of those games it was safe to do so.
I managed to do both. I'm a veteran of the WhatsApp group now, especially the one he's referring to, and I managed to watch the game at the same time. And it was absolute ridiculous dive. I think Tsimikas, poor Tsimikas, was half his height, half his size. Tries to grab a hold of him, but the bloke just brushes him off, and then he gets into the box, and I think Gini sort of comes across, and it's absolutely nothing. It's a ridiculous dive. There was people going through players, and the ref wasn't giving it. He wasn't going to give it for a touch on the shoulder. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was an awful dive.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mad one, and that sort of bringing me on. I watched the game on Virgin Media. The commentary was Jerry Armstrong and someone else. It was deplorable. They went on like as if Atalanta had. Oh, I've read that he was pony as well, but the way they were commenting, it was, you know, Atalanta came with a great attacking game plan, and this was at half time. Now, this wasn't when they were 2-0 up, a great attacking game plan. Do you feel Atalanta were up too much in the first half, or was it just one of them halves? Before we move on, personally, I thought it was an absolute stinker of a first half. I didn't think Atalanta were much to look at. They're talking about a rope-a-dope that Ilicic dropped so deep, and then rope-a-dope does in the second half. Was anyone worried at half time that Atalanta were going to do us, Grizz?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
You were on WhatsApp.
You were WhatsApping.
See, you've just proved yourself wrong. You fucking idiot. You.
Atalanta, that first half.
You think they were up to much?
Yeah, Atalanta were dire in that first half, but I think they didn't want to go gung-ho or go for it straight away. For them, it all depended on the situation of how the game panned out. They probably had one eye on the other game in the group, and sort of they were always going to assess it after halftime. See where we're at, see what the other situation in the other game is. Once the message was relayed to them that Ajax had taken the lead, you could see they started attacking us a bit more. We're, on the other hand, couldn't ever get a stranglehold in the game, and that encouraged them further. When they realized we're not up to nothing, it encouraged them to get forward a bit more. You know, that Papu Gomez, the one me and you pointed out in the very first preview we'd done about Atalanta, real football men right there for you. Gav hadn't heard of him. Well, I hope he's heard of him now. I thought the little fella, look, sometimes you got to give credit to the other team. I thought it was a beautiful pass, cross, call it what you want for the first goal. You know, you could criticize Tsimikas and Reece Jones on that. Yeah, Reece Williams, I beg your pardon. Reece Jones. Who's Reece Jones? Keith?
It's Curtis Jones.
What could you criticize them for?
For ball watching slightly, because the player was in front of them slightly, but it was a magnificent pass.
I'll tell you what the problem was for both goals. They were too deep. If we're defending a free kick from the positions those balls were put in, we defend on the 18. They were too deep, and I think Matip's organising defence there tonight. He's not the most vocal.
Yeah.
We get done before Van Dijk came in. We always used to get done like that.
Yeah.
I think there was a lack of organisation there. In the first goal, Tsimikas can see what's happening the whole way across the line, and the second goal, Robbo can see what's happening across the line, and neither of them are shouting to get Matip to move up. So I'd have to just hold Matip responsible for both of those, because he should be stepping out and they should be stepping out to see him.
That's the senior man.
And I mean, I don't like to pretend I know more than professional football and where they should be defending and saying that a professional footballer is out of position. But looking at that, to me, it made it very easy.
No, I think that's a very fair point you make there. As soon as the ball is in a crossing position, they should be stepping out. I just wanted to say that sometimes the ball is deadly, and there's not a lot you can do about it. And it was a deadly pass as well. So added to the sort of inexperience of the back four, you could also blame Alisson then in that situation where he says push out, you know. So, you know, I think sometimes you could accept it's a good pass. I think the second goal was very much what you're saying. That's my opinion, yeah. But
the goals come, right? So they scored on the hour. We make 4 changes then, and the sucker punch comes 4 minutes after the first one. Chris, do you feel that the second goal, I'm not making excuses, but do you think that really knocked the stuffing out of us? Are we expecting more from us after that second goal goes in?
I was hoping for a bit more of a reaction than we got, but you could tell 10 minutes after the goal, it just felt like Liverpool 4 or 5 years ago. It just felt like one of those games where it just wasn't happening. Conceding 2 in 4 minutes, that pretty much kills it, unfortunately. Yeah. Especially with, you know, the players we haven't got there. And unfortunately, a lot of our big guns, you know, Mane, I think Firmino, I know he's a streaky striker, but I think he's a terrible sub. I think Firmino's one of those players you have to start him or don't play him.
Good point.
I don't think he works as a sub. He never seems to. I've never seen him come off. I've very rarely seen him off the bench and go, "Oh, he's brilliant." The only thing I can think of was Stoke away, but I mean that's what 4 or 5 years ago. It's just not his game.
Yeah.
No. Whereas Jota is an impact sub. I thought he was a bit lively, came on, but you can't see one man doing it all. So it just felt like I never. Once I got to 2-0, I wasn't particularly confident. Normally with Liverpool, even at 2-0, I think I always fancy to get back into it, but it just felt like it was just going to be one of those nights. So, yeah, I think the second goal was a bit of a killer. But the likes of, Reece Williams, hopefully for him, he'll learn from that, as a basic of he lost his runner. I know we could talk about the line and all that, but, ultimately, if he follows his runner, that it does make it more difficult for him. But he's 19. It happens.
We have a comment in there from Giovanni. Forza Atalanta 2-0 Fortissima. If you're an Atalanta fan, fair play to you, lad. Good win for you tonight. We won't take away as our moment in the sun. Gasparini saying it's the biggest win in their history, which is, I think, says a lot about, how we're held as a club as well. But to get the second goal, lads, we'll move on to it very quickly. It was a bit pony, the second one. Grizz, I'll come to you.
Yeah, everything Andy said for the first one, incorrectly. I think he meant for the second one. Everything.
Both goals.
Lack of communication throughout the back four for that, because the ball was it wasn't as good as the first ball. The first ball was whipped in, quite low and into a gap. The other one was a bit of a high ball into the area. They could have arranged it, organized themselves a bit more.
No way.
Again with the offside line, it could have been much higher. Again with the senior player in that center of defense, Matip, pushing them out. But I take your point about he's not as vocal as Van Dijk, or even Rob or Go. Yeah, I was going to say, well, Gomez. But wasn't Robertson on by then for that second goal?
Yeah, Robertson was on.
They'd only come on.
So Robertson. So Robertson had just come on. Make a sub at the. Go on.
You should never allow us. You shouldn't. Sorry, pal. It was Robertson. I was coming in there just to tell you it was Robertson. But you should never allow a fullback end up in that situation where there's a big lad just on top of his shoulders to be able to just knock a ball back across the goal.
Yeah,
the defense has to be tuned in way better to not put themselves in that position. Yeah, dead right. The first goal was an excellent pass, but it was an in swinger, and it was very clear he was swinging it in. That's when you step out.
Yeah,
and you know what I mean.
And it could have been. It was close. You know what I mean. Ilicic makes at times his run very well to get in, and he is on side. But it could have been if they're a bit quicker to step out, they catch him off.
Put it this way: the two Atlanta players played 2 or 3 yards off the Liverpool defence, and they had enough time to run in when they knew the ball was coming in, and the Liverpool players didn't seem to have enough time. They were on their heels. Matip at the first goal would have been Tsimikas, and Reece. The 3 of them stayed in there, but Matip's probably in charge of that.
To me, Andy, they looked fresher in the mind by then. They looked more energetic. We looked a tired team, mentally, physically. As Chris says, we just didn't have that spark to get back into it. Normally, when we go a goal behind, 2 goals behind, we know there's fight and energy in us. I didn't see that. We could have played another half an hour. We could have played another half of football or full game. I don't think we remotely looked like scoring, and that was another issue. They defended very well compared to the first game. They knew exactly their plans, and they executed them brilliantly. And sometimes you got to hold your hands up. I know it's difficult as a Liverpool supporter because we're so brilliant and we're not used to losing games of football, but sometimes you got to hold your hands up and say, look, it wasn't our night.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimated Atalanta because we
100%
spanked them the first time over there. They're not a bad team. They weren't a 5-0 team. On the night they were shy. Tonight we were shy. They're a decent team. They've good players. They have a great coach in Gasparini who has his own style. He's gone other places and it hasn't worked. He's gone back to Atalanta and he's You know, he really is a system coach who has his way of playing and gets players in there that probably aren't the most well-known or have failed at other clubs, and he gets them working. He's a very good coach, very wily, and it was a good night for them, you know. Before we move on, Stefan put in there that, you know, the likes are brutal tonight, 345 watching, and we've only got the 91 likes. If he's in there, I hate bringing up the likes and all that, but every time someone watches us, subscribes, likes, it helps us get out and reach more people, you know, so it helps us to grow the show and expand. So if you're watching the show and you like what we do, just hit the like button. It's free, you know what I mean? But it really does help us out. It helps the show, it helps us grow, it helps us get into more people's space, you know, so the more people can subscribe and, you know, can get on board with what the Daytrippers are trying to do. So if you can, we'd appreciate it. So lads,
it's not that hard. Is it really?
We don't ask for much.
No, we don't ask for any money. Just hit a thumb fucking thing.
Yeah.
Well, you use a thumb because you ain't got hardly any fingers left, but most people use their fingers. It's a piss easy, man. Get on with it, man. Just press that like button.
Hit the like, smash the like button. But lads, what I want to do, right, is I want to finish up on the match, and then I want to have a chat about Maradona, if you don't mind. So I'm going to come around to you, and I want you as a man of the match tonight. It's very hard. Right, Andy, I'll start with you. Who was your man of the match and why?
For Liverpool, obviously.
Well, I didn't specify, so if you want to give it to one of the Atalanta lads, feel free.
I know, like, for Liverpool, I'm going to give it to Origi because everyone hates it. It's hating him tonight. I know. There's no, man. There's no. I'd be very disingenuous to hand out a man of the match there tonight for a Liverpool player. It was just one of those games. Move on. There's games where you say, I can't pick a man of the match. They were all so great. Look, when we beat Atalanta over there, we were all pulling ourselves asunder. We were all pulling ourselves apart because we knew how much of a good result it was, how well we played against a good team. You get beaten in the opposite game. You can't be too pissed off over it. We were excellent over there with a stronger team, and look, fuck it, Wijnaldum, right?
Yeah.
I can't see who else even performed.
A few people in the comments are going for Reece Williams, but you know,
that's just a sympathy.
Yeah. No, I was gonna go for Reece Williams until we discussed the 2 goals and realised that he's partially to blame for both. But listen, he's young.
Yeah,
he's neat and tidy. He reads the game. He looked calm and assured. If you forced us to pick one, it would be Reece Williams. But I think Curtis Jones didn't do bad. It just there was nothing going right for him. The forwards weren't making the right moves for him. So Curtis
not
Jones
exactly a ringing endorsement, is he? He didn't do anything.
No, I think he like, I'm not knocking him because he's an up and coming player. He's going to have games like that. Yeah. He just didn't keep the ball like he did against Leicester, and it just seemed like they made
force it.
Yeah, he did try and force it, and maybe just felt like he had confidence after Leicester game to be a bit more ballsy, and it didn't work out for him. Milner, the other player in the midfield, like sometimes when we have a tough game, like in midfield and like that, they made it hard for us closing down spaces, and they were very organised. You just need 2 players. Normally it's Ronaldo and somebody else to take a huge amount of responsibility for the midfield, and if needs must, they try and keep the ball, they try and settle down. They never got their foot in the ball. They never tried to hold onto the ball for long periods of time. If they had done that after 15 minutes, they might have killed Atlanta a little bit. You know what I mean? We're well able to keep the ball. We didn't do that.
Yeah. Chris, what about yourself? Was anybody stand out for you tonight?
To be honest, probably Genie. He was probably the only one who he kept the ball a bit. He probably the one who kept the ball the best, and I think he was trying to get things going. But like we said, when there's nothing to pass to, you know, he was just keeping it safe. I think he was the only one who I thought had any sort of half decent level of performance, which is probably damning him with faint praise. It's really like the best of a bad bunch. But other than that, the rest of them, look, yeah, the young lads, the three of them, it didn't work for them. It wasn't for the one to try and. But you know what? Hopefully they'll all learn from it. You know, it's probably a rare time we've seen Manny have a stinker. It's pretty rare it happens. So you know, yeah. So I'll probably go just Gini.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, the three young lads, and I know Nico gets an awful lot of stick. Reece Williams maybe a fault on a couple, and Curtis Jones, if he's not sort of doing nutmegs and all that, people think he's not having a good game, you know. But the senior players really let them down tonight, I thought personally, you know. So it was just one of them nights, a bad day at the office. So we'll wrap the game up on that. Before we move on to a little Maradona chat, and it'll only be, you know, a couple of minutes from each is on your thoughts on it. I just want to say again about the football prizes, you know, go over, find the details, and you know, pay £5 for a ticket in the raffle. It's a great prize, signed Virgil shirt. You know, you can't go wrong with that. We also have a new thing going with closest bets as well. We've thrown out tweets about what's happening there. You can find more info on that. And Manscaped, Grizz, have you started your Manscaped journey yet? How are you getting on?
I'm not saying nothing yet.
Well, I will. I use the ball deodorant.
Yeah, I did suggest. I told the listeners that Keith's having an off night because his Manscaped's arrived, so it all makes sense. They understood.
It's the ball deodorant and ball toner out of this world. It's the treat that your balls needed, that they never got, that you never knew they needed. So I can't recommend it highly enough. If you want to go on, you know, LFC DT, 20% discount code, get on there and get the Manscaped gear. It's the business. Andy's looking perplexed there. Have you never tried ball deodorant, Andy?
No, I wouldn't write it off now. Just that razor there looks a bit sharp or something.
Yeah, I cut me sack. I wouldn't recommend it, but I think it was the way I attacked it. I might have attacked it at a bit of an angle.
Yeah, I don't know. I know, like
it was.
Is this us promoting?
Yeah, no, it was my own fault, Grizz. I'm not blaming the two.
He didn't follow the directions.
Yeah. See, it's I was a bit naive. I thought I was a seasoned professional at that game. I know this game, but I didn't know this game at all.
Yeah, if you just, I don't know. It looks like
I know this game. Leave it to me. And even if I don't know this game, I'm going to try on Akif first. And if he survives to tell the tale, then I'll try as well. It'll be all right.
Excellent. Yeah. So anyway, get on there.
There's a few bits like around there you don't want to nick. You know what I mean? Anywhere you see a vein.
Yeah. That's it. The sight of blood coming from anywhere down there, and you know you're in trouble. So you know, I panicked. I'm not gonna lie, I panicked.
Yeah.
It just it sorted itself out. It's good. But the plus point is, after I nicked it and put me deodorant on, didn't stink. So whatever's in it, it's good gear.
I don't know if we should laugh, but
well,
I'm going to take that off just in case.
Take that off because we're going to talk about the great man. We're going to talk about the great man now before we finish, right? As everyone knows, Maradona died today, 60 years of age. In fairness, I'm surprised he made it to 60. But what is our memories of Diego Armando Maradona? Andy, I'll let you start.
Yeah, well, for me, it's all been mainly clips. You know what I mean? Towards the end of his careers, when you would have been really aware of him, but it's all his really good stuff is kind of before I can really say I was dedicated to watching football all the time. But it's the clips, and I thought I've seen every clip actually until tonight on Twitter. Yeah. There's been some good content flying around. We give out about Twitter a lot. But there's some really good stuff there tonight. The fellow was a genius. I don't think we'll ever see the likes of him again. Closest player being compared to him at the moment will be Messi. But I think there was just something about him, how he expressed himself, and it was a Lineker there before the Liverpool game was talking about. Was it Lineker? No, who the fuck was talking about? Anyway. Just about his relationship with the football, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fascinating. It seems like the ball just did what was told of him. And Klopp's comments about Maradona was great, and THIAGO was great. And he's going to miss both of them. THIAGO with his problems. He just, no matter what club comes out, it's just genius. I remember when I was playing football, my ma used to say to me, you know, you were born in the candle at both ends. I was going out to the plaza Thursday, Friday, Saturday night and playing a match on Sunday. Well, if I was born in the candle at both ends, what the fuck was THIAGO Maradona doing? It must have been.
Yeah.
So,
Burn the house down.
Yeah.
What's that?
Burning the house
As
down.
Kieran,
At
yeah,
both ends,
exactly.
probably.
As Kieran said there in the super chat, and thanks very much, Kieran. Unfortunately, I wasn't born until 89, but this CR7 versus Messi period, I would have loved to have Maradona and Best to be around the same era. Look, it's all about eras, and they say, you know, one player played in an era and wouldn't translate to another era, but yeah, I think that's shy. I think a player from, if you are good in the 50s or 60s and you are done a Back to the Future job and you ended up here and you trained, you'd be a good player now. I think.
Yeah, I think Maradona translates the modern era more than George Best or Pele does, or a lot of the other players that we see. I think he was timeless. Really, what you could do with the variety of things you could do on the football pitch. It's like stick Ronaldinho. And any time as well. So certain players.
Some players do transcend it, don't they? They do. But Grizz, what about yourself? Any abiding memories of Maradona? And keep it quick because we want to wrap this up.
I'm going to keep it very quick. You know, certain players, we've mentioned a few players there that transcend eras. Well, Maradona is one of those guys that transcends the sport. You know, he absolutely lit up this sport. He's the original reason that I fell in love. I'll take that off, man. This is, you know, let's show respect to the fella. This guy was the best combination of genius and madness. Absolutely. He was an absolutely genius with a football. Platini said today, he came out and he said, what people think Zidane can do with a football, you know, Maradona could do with an orange. You know, and I smiled when I read that. Because, you know, I fell in love with football because of Maradona. Absolutely. I'm slightly older than Andy, I think, then that means, because I still recall 86 World Cup clearly. And he was just, you know, you often talk about carrying a team, carrying, you know, a certain club. This guy carried his club and his nation, every club he went to. The most remarkable example of carrying a club is his Napoli part of his career. I mean, how would you compare Napoli to a current team, Keith? For context, to give you context.
Napoli had only won, without Maradona, I think they've only won one Italian Cup. Yeah. So it's hard to compare them with anybody really in their history. With Maradona, I think they won 2 league titles, the UEFA Cup and an Italian Cup. I could be wrong. Someone will correct me on that.
And we're talking Serie A was absolutely banging then. It was not, you know, a farmers league like now. So yeah, look, Maradona was the reason why millions fell in love with the game. And what more can you say about that? He is the sole reason.
Yeah. And Chris, what about yourself? What are your memories of Maradona?
Probably my first memory of Maradona was probably USA 94 and that infamous celebration.
Loved it.
That's what he loved it. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So that's the first time I'd probably never heard of him. You know, in 94. But probably over the years, you know, I've seen clips of him. You know, I've seen some of the ridiculous goals he could score, the ability. You know, I've read stuff up on, you know, what he was like in Napoli. The one thing I haven't seen yet, and I'll probably make more of a point to watch that, is the Maradona film that came out. Was it last year?
Yeah, it's excellent.
You probably know better than me.
Right, Asif Kapadia, I'm actually going to.
I feel like I need to watch.
I'm actually going to try and get him on one of our shows, so look out for that one, listeners and subscribers.
That's
the director of that film.
As we're talking about Maradona, don't say you're a bit late.
No, it's going to be a bit difficult.
Yeah. But look, Maradona to me was, I read a load of shit, and I read about Argentinian football especially, and Maradona done a lot of stuff. Maradona, Grizz is older than us, right? and then we'd all remember the tail end of Maradona's career. And you have the image of, as Chris said, the 94 World Cup where his eyes are hanging out of his head and he's obviously juiced up to fuck. And then you've got the, 1990 and all this, the hand of God. He was portrayed as a cheat. Maradona carried every team he played for. Maradona was a wonder kid. Maradona was, left out the Argentina 78 World Cup squad at 17, and it was a national disgrace. This fella was absolutely amazing. He covered for his teammates. The lead up to the 86 World Cup, a few players went out, broke curfew, they came back. Carlos Bilardo was going to fuck them out of the squad. Maradona took the blame on it, knowing that he wouldn't throw him out of anything. Maradona was an absolute man of the people, and he just went down the wrong road when he went to Napoli. It wasn't just when he went to Napoli. He started on the AO when he was at fucking Barcelona, but he really did find a home in Napoli to give him his platform to do what he wanted, and that was ultimately his downfall, I think. I think Maradona is absolutely amazing. I think Messi's the best player I've ever seen, and people will argue with that, but Maradona was just like the genius that I love, the rogue, the bogey genius. No one likes it. No one likes a brainy genius. I like the sort of genius that'll smash the place up as well. So Maradona will always have a special place, I think, in a lot of people's hearts for that. He made it to 60, fair play to him, but it's a sad day for football fans everywhere. And just enjoy all the content you can get from him. The Life is Life video, I'll watch it every time I see it. And I think everybody does. And it's just a fella doing a warm-up before the game, dancing and juggling the ball. It's amazing and it's mesmerising. Right, Veranda Cheese, after saying they won the 78 World Cup at Downton, I'll do a whole pod on the 78 World Cup if you want, Veranda Cheese, because there was a bleeding rip. The junta in Argentina happened there. There was all sorts of fixes going on. They had a good squad there, but Maradona really... It'd be like France not bringing Mbappe to the last World Cup. He was baiting down the door to get in there. It was a big deal at the time. Maradona never forgave Menotti for doing it to him, and there's a whole lot of stuff behind that. But look, we all have our memories of Maradona, and just enjoy the content while it's there. I've gone over the hour. I said we wouldn't go over the hour. I know the match wasn't too much to talk about, but lads, thanks for joining me tonight to talk about Liverpool getting beaten, the rarities that they do be. But Chris, thanks for joining me.
Cheers for having me, mate.
No worries. Andy, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Nice one, yeah.
Grizz.
Yeah, no bother, man.
I won't thank you because you're on every night these days.
Pod hole me. Yeah. It's always hard after a defeat in a performance like that. But look, we go again. Exactly.
So remember, get on all the sponsors that are sponsoring the show as well, lads. By helping us, if you support them, you're supporting us. People always ask, how can we help you out? So that's how you can do it. So look, it's been the Midweek Fix, and we'll see you all again soon.